for a chemical company even to bring in a new chemical now just for ourselves without the likes of the UK being a big user as well with us is more difficult. So we're definitely going to have to look at other techniques as well. And
Richard, with your science background, this is obviously an area that you've written about extensively on Agriland.
Yeah, well, just if I could go back on one point relating to the Vision Group. I mean, there are 30 organisations around that table. So I'd be confident enough that the recommendations coming out of that group will be coherent and will have a degree of resonance. I mean, the big issue is, will the government come through at its end with the support that's required and the genuine funding that's going to be needed to make all of this work? I mean, the national finances are in maybe the strongest state they've ever been. So there is a degree of expectation that it is time for government to put the proverbial money where their mouth is. And the other, I suppose the elephant in the room for me is the banks. What are they going to do in the context of all this? Yeah. I think they're critically important, both in the short term and longer term. How are they going to see the future for tillage farming?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I'd like to come in on that. I think the one thing that we've seen with the Minister and with the tillage incentive scheme, and even with the protein scheme, which we welcome very much, the protein scheme and the straw chopping, it's going to take finances to get people to sustain the area they have and to grow the area. And I think that's a very important point. And just on the banks issue, Richard, I have called in our organisation and they have accepted that we need to go and meet all the major pillar banks to try and put some kind of pressure on them to be. Now, I know, speaking to some of the banks, they are well willing to work with us and with farmers, but at the same time, there's going to be hard decisions.
And what does that look like? Extending kind of more favourable finance on better terms, or what are you looking for from the banks?
We would hope that to do something on terms, Yeah. Take some of the pressure off, and maybe some kind of a scheme package.
Yeah. And Shay, I suppose, speaking about finances, fertiliser price was very expensive for a lot of tillage farmers. It has come down in recent months, and it's to the benefit of maybe other sectors that they needed it later in the year. But, a lot of the tillage farmers out there suffered. What are we seeing going forward? Is there any kind of, I'm getting you to be Mystic Meg now a little bit.
The good news is, I suppose, from that point of view, we're just doing a provisional cost and returns budget, which we do every year around this time. And definitely the costs have come down, there's no doubt about that. Fertiliser being the main one. I mean, this time last year you would have been looking at the likes of, say, can being somewhere in around 800-900 euros a tonne. This year it's a lot less, that's about 350 or 380 or something like that. So in that regard, it has come back. Likewise, seed costs have come back down as well. I suppose fuel is the one we're kind of worried about at the moment. Like, fuel costs are continuing to rise, as are like machinery costs. Yeah. So they're the ones we kind of have to track and keep an eye on. And there's only a limited amount of things that we can actually do about those. But I think overall, I suppose, if I have to try and project into 2024 in terms of where costs are going to be in 2024, I don't see them being as high as 2023. But they could be lower. They're not going to be as low as they probably need to be in order for guys to make a decent margin.
And what are the futures saying in terms of prices? Is there any light in the horizon?
That's real Mystic Meg stuff now.
I know, yeah. We'll have you doing a horoscope next.
To be fair, if you're looking at the markets over the last number of weeks and months, they've been kind of going up and down within a band, kind of the mid to low, or the low to mid 200s for wheat and barley, and everything else is balanced off of that. So,
is the Ukraine situation, is the Black Sea Grain Initiative having a trickle-down effect?
Every now and again it does, and you'll see maybe something happens in the Ukraine and there's a spike for a couple of days and then it settles back down to where it had been previous to that. I think that situation has kind of been factored out of the market a lot at this stage. I mean, global supply chains have pretty much settled down after all the hassle that was out there in the Ukraine, and people have forward contracts there. It's the uncertainty that creates the rise and fall in prices. So where there's uncertainty, you get these spikes in prices, not necessarily supply chains. It's how the traders look and how those supply chains are going to be affected, and they set the price then. So I suppose if you're looking at wheat at the moment, you're probably talking maybe 220, 225 a tonne, barley probably a tenner underneath that, and that's where they've kind of stayed in the last 4, 5, 6 months, So I can't see that changing unless there's something incredibly happens that's affected with climate change or something, or climate that's a drought in southern hemisphere countries or something like that affects total supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I suppose, they haven't gotten it all wrong in the Department of Agriculture, to be fair to them. Kieran, we have mentioned the strong corporation measure a few times. That has been very successful. Like, what would you like to see happen with that into the future? Expansion and kick it on? I mean, there seems to be an appetite there for it.
I think there's a huge appetite for the strong corporation measure, and it has been very successful. And I think we have looked for the area to be increased to 55,000. It's set at 40,000 for the next 5 years in the plan. We've looked for it to be increased to 55,000, and I think that's a target that the government have set, along with getting the grain area up to 400,000 hectares. So I think it's not an unreasonable ask. And I mean, the likes of the protein payment have been, you can see beans in every county. So, I mean, it just comes back to, that we have a reasonably good working relationship with the department, but that's not going to cover the cracks that's there this year. And I mean, there's going to have to be some kind of a rescue package from the department for tillage farmers.
Yeah, and where's the future going here as well? I mean, when we look at generational renewal and that whole aspect, we need young farmers coming into tillage. And, I don't want to be negative, but the picture that we've painted, and I know 2023 is probably an exceptionally bad year, but there are issues there that have been going on for multiple years now. And Shay, I suppose from a Teagasc point of view, in bringing younger people into this sector, I mean, obviously the costs of setting up are quite prohibitive, as well.
Yeah, you're right. And access to land is probably the other one.
Yeah.
And I do know that, young farmers, young trained farmers are hungry for land. They're going through our colleges and, they are being well educated, so they're not fools. They know what the markets are. They know how the prices structures work. So they're well educated, if you like. So they're not going to jump into something that they know there's not going to make money. Yeah. And I think that's where the crux of the matter is. If they can see a business, whether it be a tillage business or a dairy business or a dry stock business, where they can see a future and an income for themselves and their families, they will take up the mantle. And I think that's the challenge, is to make sure that there is a sustainable income for those young trained farmers as they come out of colleges. Yeah. And I think if that's there, you will see them there.
And I know, Richard, you were very passionate about bringing younger people into the journalism sector, more than you are into
Absolutely,
the tillage sector.
Yeah, I mean, young people are our future. But I think, it's not all gloom and doom, if I could say that. I mean, there are examples, very significant examples of what has worked well within tillage, the crop sector. Malting barley is a case in point. We're adding value. That sector is underpinning some of the most prestigious drinks brands in the world. And when you contrast that scenario with, let's say, feed grains, there's no traceability system that I'm aware of within Irish agriculture to tell you where feed barley, feed wheat, how it moves along the chain. If we had that, it would allow then other sectors, the feed compounding sector, the milk processing sector, the beef processing sector, to actually have firm evidence to allow them then to promote this is Irish milk, Irish beef, Irish pork from farm to fork. And that surely has got to be an aspiration that should be made a reality as we move to the future. But we don't have the traceability system at that basic farm level at the moment truly in place to make any of that happen. So,
okay. And final word, you wanted to come back in there, Kieran, did you?
It was just when you were talking about bringing young farmers in. Look at, there's plenty of young farmers. There's not a lot, but there's farmers there that would. But I mean, we're in 2 years now of just volatility. I'm farming since 1990. And I mean, if you were wrong by 20 euros on grain and 15 on fertiliser, you consider yourself after doing a bad job. And like for the last 2 years, you could be out by 150 euros and 500 euros. So I suppose that's what we're saying is now is the time that, the minister needs to take care of tillage farmers to get them through these volatile times. It's not something we've created. And I mean, grain is flowing from the Ukraine through Europe, which is not helping the grain markets either. So, and it's keeping the market from rising. So, I mean, we could end up with, we don't know where fertiliser is next March. We can get a price today, but we don't know where it is next March. Yeah. So it's that volatility that we need to get covered for at the moment. Yeah. I think that's what's really taking lumps out of us this year, you know.
Okay, well, we'll see what the Minister can get from his colleague Michael McGrath in the Department of Finance. Thank you so much, Kieran McAvoy from the IFA, Shay Phelan from Teagasc, and our very own Richard Halloran as well. Now we're heading back out onto site to see what the Agriland team have been getting up to here at the National Ploughing Championships.
From Agriland. So, James, can you just tell me, how does this app work?
Okay, well, you see, we're very lucky in Ireland in that we have a lot of data on all our cows and our cattle, everything to do with our farm animals. We have a lot of data on them. And I suppose that data is stored in a number of different places. The Department of Ag and Food is one obvious one. Our national database, National Cattle Database, which is the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, or the ICBF, that's where a lot of the data is stored. But there's also data stored with the milk recording societies, with the AI societies, with vets, etc., factories, Board BIA, etc., etc. So the idea of the app is to bring all this data together, put it on your phone, and put it in a format that makes it very easy for the farmer to make day-to-day decisions on his herd. So I'll give you an example. When you're in Ireland, when most cows start calving around the start of February, I'll already know, because I have a dairy herd at home myself, I'll already know from my app when my cows are due to calve. How will I know that? Because my app knows when they were served.
Yeah.
So there's a gestation at about 282 days, and from that the app can tell me when my cows are due to calve. Also from that one piece of information, which is the serve data, it tells me when my cows are due to dry off. So I don't, and it'll give me a list. I can show it to you if you want.
Yes, show me.
Yeah, so look at, if you go into your jobs list, so there's a jobs list that, these are things that you do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if I just click on that tab, it'll tell me here, I have 76 cows to dry over the next 100 days. Now, the key thing here is I've put no information in.
So how does it generate all the info?
Exactly, so the AI technician comes to my yard in the spring, and he AIs my cows.
Yeah.
So from that, I know when my cows are due to dry off, because they have to get a certain amount of time in a dry period, 2 months usually. So it'll calculate automatically a time when that cow needs to be dried off. Now, so what does that do for me? It means, first of all, I won't forget, okay? So, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And second of all, from a work point of view, it means I don't have to go down through a whole lot of reams of paper and calculating when that cow is due to dry off. The app does it for me itself. So on a Saturday morning, if I want to dry off 10 cows, I just go into this report here, due to dry. I'll click on it, and it'll give me the list of cows in order of when they're to dry off. Okay?
Okay.
But not only does it do that, and this is the magic of it, if you like, in terms of bringing all the information together. It has already looked at the milk recording data of each individual animal, and it identifies the cows that are high cell count, and therefore they are selected out for antibiotic treatment in the dry period. So I can select my cows for what's known in the industry as selective dry cow treatment. Some cows don't need an antibiotic at drying off, and some do. So, but all of this is done automatically on the app. I do nothing, only click on a list, and it tells me. You can see it's actually color coded. The ones in red are the ones who need a mastitis tube.
Okay.
The ones in green are the ones that are fine.
Right.
So, as literally, just at a glance of the screen, I'm making good decisions, accurate decisions, and there's no work involved.
Yeah, so for people that aren't that clued up, I suppose, with technology, like say for my dad, for example, how hard is it for someone like that to kind of set it all up and get it going?
Well, look, because I'm used to it, I'm going to say it's easy, right? But look, it is easy. Like, I'm in a different generation than you are, and IT to me was always something new. But you literally log on and download the app. I think most people can log on to the App Store or whatever and download the app. You go through maybe 2 steps. You have to put in your herd number, and you have to give the ICBF and the Department of Ag, where most of the information is, you have to give them permission to share your data. That's just a click of a button.
Okay.
Tick a box.
Yeah.
And away you go. And immediately your phone or your app is populated with all the data on all your animals immediately.
That's amazing,
Yeah,
isn't
it is. Yeah.
You'd expect it to be much more time consuming, wouldn't you? And you see how much is on there, and actually you're not having to do a lot of it at all. So with, I suppose, systems moving and technology moving within farming, how much easier does it make life on a day-to-day basis?
it's revolutionary. It's once you see it on your phone, and for us, once you get a farmer's herd downloaded onto his phone, the minute he sees it, it's only then he realises, oh my God, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And like lots of guys will say, I'll sell the tractor or I might sell 10 cows, but they'll never ever get rid of the herd out because it reduces the workloads, and it's mundane stuff. It's not nice work. It's tedious going through long lists of cows and seeing which ones need to be dried off in a certain way, or which cows are due to calve, or which cows are due to serve. Whole ream things. That's tedious, mundane stuff. Here it's just literally glancing at a screen and it's done. And the real nice thing about it is it's accurate. You're making good, accurate decisions, literally at a flick of a switch.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Now, next up here on the stage in the Agriland Pavilion at the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska on our live stream, brought to you in association with UPMC, we're going to focus on organic farming. Now, we were speaking with Minister of State at the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Pippa Hackett, a little while ago about what she is hoping to achieve in organics. But let's talk to three people who are, I suppose, involved in it day to day and in and out. No more than the Minister is, I suppose, as well. Jack Nolan is a Senior Inspector and Head of the Organics Division with the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. Beside him is Grace Maher. Grace is the Development Officer with the Irish Organic Association. And on the stool is Kevin O'Hanlon. And Kevin is an organic farmer based in Carlow and Wexford. We'll hear a little bit more about two enterprises there, but all organic as well, Kevin, and your journey on conversion as well with that. But Jack, can I start with yourself? Because under the Climate Action Plan, a target of 450,000 hectares by 2030, which will bring us up to 10% of agricultural land being farmed organically. Now, the Minister told me just a little while ago she's quite confident. She said the current figures with the latest additions to the organic farming scheme will bring it up to somewhere around 4%. Is it a big ask, or do you think we're on the right path?
I think we'll exceed it. We're at 180,000 hectares at the minute. A couple of years ago we were at 74,000. There's never been such support available for organic farmers. And I don't just mean money. Like, if you look at the number of Teagasc advisors, the number of private advisors, people like Grace, the Organic Trust, the Irish Organic Association, there's much more understanding of organics and awareness of it. And Board B are going to launch a marketing campaign later on in the year to show people what is organic all about, to show consumers, because we need people in the marketplace to start spending their money. Like, if you look at the Citizens' Assembly on Biodiversity, they said that we want more organic farmers in Ireland. Well, now is the opportunity for them to go out and buy our Irish organic produce. So I think it's very achievable.
Yeah. And do you think that there is a perception sometimes organic, it's more expensive, it's a bit of a luxury? Is that something we need to tackle as well with consumers?
Well, I suppose first off, we waste about a third of the food we produce between the field and the fork. So like 10% of greenhouse gases in the world come from wasted food. Like, if we sorted out what we're eating, there'd be no issue with organics. And to a farmer, for any farmer listening in, farmers get about 10% of a premium, say, for beef or sheep, or a little bit with it. Like, when someone goes into the shop, if they could buy directly from the farmer and cut out the retailer altogether, like, the shops need to look at how much of a markup they're taking on organics, I think, because it is something that people want. Like, we have an organic village down on row 16, if anyone would like to come down to it. We had one for the first year last year, it's double the size this year, and there's a tremendous flow of people coming in to find out about organics. But I think there's a huge appetite out there for it among consumers.
But I suppose that's reflected in the over 2,000 farmers who joined the organic farming scheme when it was opened most recently. Farmers are very, very interested, and a lot of farmers out there probably don't have a whole pile to do to convert as well.
There's a huge amount of farmers that need more knowledge about organics. I'd say that's the biggest thing, that they didn't understand it and they weren't being supported as they switched over to organic farming. I think that support is available now, and what you'd say to people is, look, come and get information and then make up your mind. Don't be listening to someone up the road that's saying, oh, if you go organic, you have to do this, you have to do that. What we're finding now is that people are coming to, there's about 50 organic farm walks this year.
come and talk to a farmer, talk to someone like Kevin, who's a practitioner, ask him how does he deal with the housing, what's the situation as regards dosing cattle or sheep and so on, and make a decision for yourself, because for an awful lot of farmers, they're much better off if they come to organics, but they'll also be under a lot of pressure, under a lot less pressure, because farmers are one of the most stressed out occupations that we have. They suffer from very poor mental and physical health, and they're not getting proper financial rewards for it. So you need to change something. Like, we just had a very bad harvest. For people looking into next year, beef prices are coming up a little bit. We've had a bad year for sheep. What are you going to do different next year? Are you going to hope that the market's going to pay you better? Or are you going to take action? And going organic is taking action and taking control of your farm away from a retailer, away from a salesperson that's selling you expensive inputs, and you're not getting paid for your product at the end of the day.
And Grace, is that where we're trying to move organics, from being less of a niche kind of an enterprise into more mainstream and something that's more accepted and not, people maybe having kind of false preconceptions about the whole thing?
Absolutely, Aisling. I mean, yes, in Ireland it probably would have been perceived as niche, particularly when we had 1%, 2% of farmers organic. But now we're on the right trajectory, we're 4%, and really we need to mirror what's been done at European level, where it's not a niche market, and I mean, the European market has been in double-digit growth for the last decade, and Ireland is starting to grow in parallel with that. And there is a demand for product that is produced in Ireland. I mean, our European neighbours want Irish organic products. So absolutely, we need to move away from the niche. Consumers want organic food, they want Irish, local organic produce, and really, I mean, farmers have the ability to give that to them with some support, and the Irish Organic Association welcomes the public support for the sector, to enable it to grow, because it does need support. It's at its infancy in Ireland, but certainly when we look at the European model that's out there, absolutely Ireland can be operating on that level of production, because Irish consumers want Irish organic product.
Yeah, and I mean, the over 2,000 farmers who joined the OFS, in recent times, Grace, your organisation would have been dealing with a lot of queries, I would imagine, and questions on a one-to-one basis, because, as Jack alluded to, everybody's farm is different. Just because I'm on this side of the ditch doesn't mean I'm the same as your farm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what the certification bodies are there for. Our inspectors are out on the ground every day, they're meeting organic farmers, and we are there to help people as well on that process, because we want to see more farmers coming into the sector, because we do believe that there's huge opportunities for farmers coming in. But absolutely, I mean, if you have any queries about certification, as Jack said, pop down to the Organic Village. We're there, and we're very happy to talk to farmers who are considering organic. But as you say, I mean, predominantly last year with farmers who came in was predominantly, beef and sheep, but certainly there's opportunities in dairy and tillage and horticulture, and yeah, we'd love to see more farmers coming in, and we're delighted to have kind of the organic farming scheme opening on an annual basis. It's really welcomed by the sector.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm going to bring yourself in here, because I suppose you've done it.
Yeah,
you're on the other side, as they say. So, I mean, just from a background point of view, just to explain to people your own background, because you're a farm manager on a dairy farm in Wexford. You also have the home farm in Carlow. It's all organic now, I understand. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and, I suppose, deciding to go organic and how it works for you?
Yeah, so the home farm is in South Carlow, and the work farm is near New Ross in Wexford, the dairy farm. I suppose the decision back in 2018 during the drought, we were spreading a lot of fertiliser, and to try and get grass to grow, it wasn't working. So I went off looking at plants that were more drought resistant that time, plantain and chicory and things like that, multi-species swars effectively. And I suppose my boss, Mary Pascal, had been on to me for a good while about organics. But we had to try and see, it was a dairy herd, 9,000 litre dairy herd, so it was high input, high output. So we had to see could we grow grass effectively without fertiliser, or what could we grow without fertiliser. So yeah, we did that from kind of 1920, then we joined the organic scheme in 21 and were certified then last May. So it was a kind of we nearly did a 4-year conversion instead of 2.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of speaks to what Minister Hackett was saying a little while ago, especially in maybe the dairy sector as well, that there is maybe more of a run-in needed than just the 2 years. There's adjustments are needed maybe outside of that time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, like we dropped back numbers. We were at 180 cows. We're back to 155 this year. We have 181 in calf for next year. Grass we can't control grass at the moment. It's just getting ahead of us. So yeah, we're going back up. Like I know no 2 years are the same, but there's 500 tons of extra feeding in the pit that we actually won't need this winter. So you do need a longer run in. You have to try things. You have to try. Like we went trying things ourselves, and obviously went talking to the IOA, different things as well. But it's more or less try yokes yourself. Like cut back a bit on fertiliser, put in clover, put in multi-species, stuff like that, and. Yeah. As I said, we're going back up in numbers again next year.
And a guesstimate, I suppose, like we were talking about fertiliser prices with our tillage panel just a few minutes ago, and how much do you estimate that you might have saved, I suppose, given the fact that fertiliser prices now did get extraordinarily high, but like since you've converted?
On a normal year, if we could say it that way, we were 46,000 a year on fertiliser, but that was on tillage crops as well. So, yeah, that's a massive saving. We just use our slurry more strategically now, and we use our dung. We use a lot of bales. You can buy conventional straw, so it's the cheapest form of P&K to get in the gate in conventional straw. We're after saving it was 46,000 a year being spent on fertiliser. That was before the high prices last year or this year. Like we would have been up 100k last year on fertiliser alone. We would have been spending 100k.
My gosh. So, and that puts it into, stark figures there, doesn't it, Jack? And I'm sure that it mightn't be as big a saving on maybe a smaller dry stock enterprise or something like that, but it is a significant saving, isn't it?
That's huge. And I think what's important is that there's an awful lot of information that can flow between organic and farmers that are using fertiliser. Like, you don't have to be one or the other. Like, I mean, if you look at, say, the likes of clover and multi-species, like Kevin said, like every farmer in Ireland now is thinking about it. Organics is thriving on it and moving forward. Red clover silage, it's been supported by the department, by government. So is multi-species. And farmers are looking at it for themselves. So why can't you go organic would be the question I'd ask. One big thing every farmer should be doing is taking soil samples. If you don't have the pH, get the lime right. So the soil is going to release nitrogen naturally. So your P is going to be more available. But all these things are happening anyway, whether you're organic or not. So for me, a lot of farmers should go home and see what's the situation with the sheds. Why amn't I organic? Like, what is stopping me becoming organic? Because to me, the floodgates are going to open. Like, I can't see, there's a 50 billion market in Europe, 125 billion worldwide. We have a fantastic marketing agency in Bordbia. We just don't produce enough organic product to sell. Like last year, we killed about 12,000 organic beef cattle. We need to be killing 20, 30, 40,000 more and get into a really strong position where we can market Ireland as an organic country across Europe and around the world. And there's an opportunity there for Ireland to take, and we need to take it.
Yeah, and Grace, I suppose the common misconceptions, the common myths, what would be a couple of them that you might like to dispel here? I mean, look, obviously there is certain requirements, and housing is something that we do kind of, talk about very often when it comes to organic farming. What would be the ones that you commonly go, no, that's not the case?
Well, I suppose, sometimes people are confused about the actual conversion period. So it is a 2-year conversion period where you must farm organically, but you can't sell into the organic sector. So that's probably the first misnomer or confusion area. But as you've outlined, Aisling, there's the organic food and farming standards in Ireland. So that's the regulations that farmers must abide to. But I suppose the most frequently asked questions would be from farmers who are considering organic would be, can I keep my own stock that I have on farm? Which obviously you can. You can retain them for breeding purposes. Now, they won't gain organic status, but their offspring will if they're born 3 months after you go into organic conversion. Their offspring will gain organic status when the land does. So that's probably one of the first things. Another issue would be around housing. If housing needs to be modified, which you do have to have 50% of the shed must be of solid construction with bedding and must be available to livestock. So, and again, there's grants available under the Organic Capital Investment Scheme under TAMS 3 for farmers to actually convert their housing. And also, I suppose, one of the most other commonly asked questions would be about sourcing organic stock. Where do farmers source it? And we're delighted to say that there's more organic marts available around the country to facilitate stock. Obviously, too, farmers would buy from other organic farmers, and most farmers would breed their own replacements. And then issues around sourcing organic seed. And we're delighted to say that in the last couple of years, more of the seed companies in Ireland are offering organic seed, because farmers are obliged to try and use organic seed where available. So they're probably the most common areas I think that farmers are concerned about. Yeah. And as Kevin alluded to earlier, I suppose one of the first questions farmers ask is, can you grow grass in an organic system? And that is, it's a genuine concern.
And he's growing quite a lot of it.
Yes, Kevin is growing quite a lot. And again, it's a bit slower in the springtime when you're an organic farmer, but once the soil temperatures warm up, and clover kicks into action, about 8 degrees, in the soil temperature, and then, at the back end of the year, like this time of the year, you've got more than enough grass. So, but they would be, I suppose, the questions that we get asked most frequently in the Irish Organic Association.
Just today, Minister Hackett launched the Organic Trading Hub.
Yes.
So. Yeah. If you want to look at, say, source organic stock or seed or anything like Grace said, there's a one-stop shop there for organic farmers. It's funded by the department. It's really easy to use. And you can go in and see, because at the minute we do have a lot of people that are producing organic lamb and beef that don't end up on organic farms. And that's something that we want to deal with and we want to sort out. But it's real farming, so it's not magic or anything like that. You're still going to have problems, but it's an opportunity for people. And that's the way it should be looked at. And we have a huge number of farmers out there that can quite easily grow enough grass. It's just that we've become used to someone coming into the yard, telling us what to do. We need X amount of fertilizer. You need to use this spray and that spray. I remember my father telling me back in the 70s that someone came in to sell him chemical pesticides. And this was going to sort out all the weeds in Ireland within a year.
Yeah.
And look where we are 50 years later. It's not true. We've lost our understanding of the soil. We need to get it back. We need to understand what's happening, why a soil isn't producing grass. Is it compacted? What's the practice that you're doing? Why do multi-species grass change the actual colour of the soil and the health of it? That's what we need to be looking at, the soil, and actually using the soil to feed what we're growing, rather than drawing in expensive inputs.
Well, Jack, we're running tight on time. I suppose a bit of insider information from the department. When can we expect the organic farming scheme to open again?
You should have asked Minister Hackett.
I did ask her, but I'll ask you as well.
Well, I'll go on what Minister Hackett said. It'll open later on in the year. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, but we would encourage everyone to come down to row 16 and walk around the organic village and talk to us all about it, and find out for yourself whether it's real or not for you.
And I'd imagine a series of farm walks will be advertised as well on the department website, and I'm sure you'll have the details as well for us on Agriland. But that's where we're going to have to leave it. Kevin, thank you so much for telling us your story about conversion as well. Grace from the Irish Organic Association, and of course Jack Nolan from the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. We're heading back out onto the site to see what is going on here in Ratheniska today.
So we're here with Paul now from the ICMSA. So can you just tell us a bit about yourself, Paul, and your role in the ICMSA?
I suppose I'm a dairy policy officer within the ICMSA, working mostly on the dairy side, business side as well. So just dealing with, I suppose, a lot of issues got to do with milk price and, even pre-budgets, things like that. So that's the main portfolio. Yeah.
And I suppose with Agriland and association with Agriland and the ICMSA, we do the milk price track every month. I suppose, what's the importance of something like that to your farmer on the ground?
I think it's the transparency really is what you're looking at. You're looking at farmers seeing what prices other co-ops are paying for their milk, and being able to study it, see the trends, know where the price for either butterfats or proteins, and see how their own co-op is performing month on month, and making sure, I suppose, if they can put pressure on their local board members to know what the price is and see how they are performing,
Yeah. And so it's been on an ongoing series now within this Agriland for a number of years now, and we've seen it develop and the readership goes up in every month. But I suppose the real key part of it is the whole fact that you can see what the prices are within all the co-ops, and you can compare to yourself and you can really get a better insight as to what's going on within the system.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of difference between some co-ops and certain ones.
Like on a monthly basis, there can be significant differences between the co-ops, you know, and like that's can be down to product mix or like, but it's important for farmers to be able to understand their milk price and even from the bonuses and the quality bonuses that they can actually see what they can get paid for in certain co-ops versus their own co-op, you know. So I think it's the level of transparency that it can actually bring, you know. I think that's really important. That we've opened up that in the last number of years through the tracker on Agriland, that, you know, farmers are more aware of what they can get for their milk if they were in different co-ops as well.
And then obviously, like this year has been kind of we've seen a significant drop in milk price this year, and I suppose that probably brings it into play a little bit more as to like what the margins are and what the potential margins are, and you know, like if you're in a certain co-op selling the exact same milk, you could be a couple of cents better off, really.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. When milk price is under pressure, you know, farmers do get they take a lot of interest in the differentials, and you know, I suppose we've been leading that space with yourselves in Agriland, that, you know, showing that there can be differences between co-ops, and like we've the app as well that you can actually go in and check your interactive part of it. But you know, I think farmers are paying quite a lot of attention with it, especially this year, like with the price drop over the last number of months.
Yeah. And I suppose now we're heading into late September, heading into October. We're talking about prime autumn calving, winter milk herds, and I suppose like the big talk among a lot of these winter milk herds is around the premiums for winter milk, and what could be done with this? Like I suppose they have to go back to their co-op, show their analysis and show what their costs are, and try to get a better price, really.
Yeah, I think it's all about showing the cost differential, okay, and the cost of actually producing winter milk, and that differential that's there needs to be actually given to those liquid producers, you know, and there's analysis there showing how much extra it is to actually milk during those months, you know, and you know it's not the same as a spring-based production, you know. You need those extra concentrates, that extra feed, like there is a significant premium needed for that.
Yeah, and I suppose like it's probably a system that's a little bit under pressure at the minute as well. With, you know, we've seen the nitrates issue, and probably a lot of guys thinking, is it worth my while doing this anymore? But I suppose if we lose that industry, we're losing a significant part of our system, and we're losing, you know, potentially we're looking at having to import milk for certain months of the year, which is we don't want to be doing as a
no,
as
it's not something that we could even think about importing liquid milk in at any time, you know, and it's something that we need to protect, and you know, we need to make sure that we have those farmers there. Like we can see through the National Milk Agency numbers that the numbers actually producing liquid milk on contract are declining year on year. So we have to make sure that that's protected, and the only way that's protected is if they're properly compensated, and that's through price, you know. So that's something that we really have to work hard on.
Yeah. So look, thanks a lot for talking to us, Paul, and we're going to go back to the Agriland Pavilion now. So it's day 2 of the National Ploughing Championships here. We're here with the Lely, at the Lely tent, and we're here with Brian and Michael. So can you just tell us a bit about where you're based and what your role are?
Yeah. So I'm Brian, I'm Centre Manager in Mitchelstown, so we cover the areas of Cork, Kerry and Limerick for Lely. So delivering Lely solutions on automation to dairy farms in Cork, Kerry and Limerick.
I'm Michael O'Grady, I'm General Manager in Lely, Kilkenny, so we cover the southeastern region of the country.
Yeah. And I suppose weather's dried up a bit now, it's maybe not it's a bit damp underfoot still, but what are people coming in to see here at the Lely tent, or what's on offer, or what products are you showcasing?
So our centrepiece here is our Lely Astronaut A5, which is our milking robot. I think most farmers are familiar with that, with the live milking done through the years. We also have our feeding robots. So our feeding robots, we have a feed pusher, the Lely Juno feed pusher, we got the CAM calf feeder, and we got our vector dry feeding system as well. Also we got our cleaning robot, so we got a Discovery Collector, which is a vacuuming robot, and we got our Discovery 90, which is the one that pushes for static flows.
And I suppose all these products are on offer to Irish customers. Like, these are products that you can and will see on Irish farms. Like, there's none of the, it's not available here, we're just showing you that we have it kind of.
Yeah, so we're outside the early adoption phase. I mean, a lot of our technologies are widespread on farms at the moment. I think we've got 1,500 milking robots in the island of Ireland at the moment, and a similar amount of cleaning robots, and the feeding robots are getting more traction at the moment. So yeah, we're growing every year. So it's not only available here on the Lely stand, but it's available in farms throughout the country every day.
Yeah. And so, Michael, in terms of then the technology in farms, how important is that becoming? Like, how important is it to, like, take away maybe the scraping in the morning of the slats, or having the information that you can get from the robots? How vital are the farmers using this technology, finding it?
So I suppose if we just summarise what happened yesterday, so I put into 3 words. First thing is labour.
Yeah.
That came up. Every single person that came into the stand is about labour. How can they make time or save time? The second thing is about performance. You know, is there a little bit more than they get out of the animals, but in a kind of an economic way? And the third thing that they're looking for is slightly better lifestyle. You know, doing some of the manual jobs, take out the repetitive jobs like having to scrape down the area around the back of the cubicle, scraping yards, milking cows. It's actually a repetitive process, and the robot does it great. So, yeah, so really it's about what we try to do is we try and find a solution that works for their farm, to help them to get more out of their animals and save time and have a little bit more time for the families. And it sounds euphoric, but that's genuinely what it is.
And then in terms of the customers looking at it, are we talking new entrants, or are we talking existing farms, or is it a mix of everyone?
Yeah, it really is a mix of everyone. We cater for the guy that's just thinking of getting into dairying, and he's going to start off with 70 cows or whatever and scale up, right through to guys. We actually see ourselves as a direct competitor of roasteries as well. We have a lot of farms with, say, 200, 300, 400 cows, and they can't get labour, and they still want to have some kind of a life at weekends. Would that be fair to say, Brian?
Yeah, we're milking herds in Ireland from 60 to 300 cows and plus in Ireland. So we're a solution for everybody. It depends what you're looking to get out of it. If you're, as Michael said, if labour's your challenge, we can solve that problem. If you're looking to get more data, more cow information, more cow level data, sensor technologies to help with early identification of health problems, etc., we can do that. For instance, our milking robot, it takes the temperature of every cow every milking. So you got real-time live information there on the health of your animals 365 days a year. So it depends on what challenge you're trying to solve on your farm, but if it's for labour, cow health, efficiency and lifestyle, which is becoming more and more important. People want to spend more time with their families, more time with their children, and people who work on farms, they want to make them better places to work, great places to work. And I think that's something we have to really all focus on in agriculture, is making it a great place to work in. You know?
And the kind of word I put on it would be that it's kind of an intergenerational investment. So the fathers are investing to make their careers as easy as possible when they're finished out, and then the sons then have a better farm to kind of to work on, or daughters, to work on.
And I suppose, like, is a robot suitable for nearly every farm? Like, you'd hear people maybe say, "Oh, I'd love to get one, but I don't think my farm's suitable." Like, is it possible that, like, with the help of yourselves, that robots be installed in every farm in the country to a certain?
Yeah, so what we do, we take people through a process. So we often get a first inquiry here at the ploughing. Down in Lely Centre, Mitchelstown, Lely Centre, Kilkenny, Lely Centre, Mullingar, we have a team of people to help most farms convert to automatically milking their cows. And we do that through a team of farm management support advisors. We have technical support technicians, so it's a real team effort across to get that farm to change a couple of simple processes in that farm to automate the milking process, automate the cleaning process, or whatever process they want to automate on that farm. And we do it with a team of people, so we go to the farm, we consult with the farmer, what goals, what aims they want to achieve from automating, let's say, the milking process of the farm, and we have a team of people to help with the conversion process.
Yeah. And I suppose, like, obviously, the showpiece here is the A5 robot, but you have the vector feeding system as well. And I suppose that's kind of a system that possibly could also work on a beef finishing system, or, like, it's not just dairy farmers that are probably looking at inquiries. If you're finishing cattle, there's the opportunity to use a vector there.
Yeah, it's the same. So both the Juno and the vector are great for beef units. I have a guy he's got a feedlot. It's about 2,000 animals going through it every year. He's the Juno pushing the feed. He reckons he's getting X grams more, maybe 150, 200 grams more gain a day per cow, which is pretty phenomenal. And then from a feed saving perspective, from a feeding perspective, from a performance perspective, the vector is fantastic. They just need to fill the feed station probably every 2 to 3 days, and then the robot does everything else. And it just makes sure that the animals get what they should be getting. It monitors the feed fence to make sure that they're fed at the right sequence as well, Brian. Is that on top of that?
We have a number of beef farms down in the Mitchelstown region after converting to the vector system, and they're seeing on dairy breeds fattening live weight gains of 1.6 to 1.7 kilos of live weight gain a day, which is phenomenal result from a dairy beef animal. So it's about delivering the right feed, the right mix, the right quantities at the right time.
And I suppose just the last very quick question would be around the grazing system. Obviously, we model ourselves in a grass-based system, dairy systems. Like, these work very well on a grazing system. We see them work here all the time. And I suppose, is that maybe the worry with a lot of guys who are thinking about it, that are my cows going to suit a robot?
Yeah, so typically when we go out on a first call, we're assessing the farm to see a number of factors, like how much grazing block is around the yard, how accessible are the rest of the fields. And we make every more, because it's a bespoke design then for that farm, and it actually it's not just the yard, it's not just the grazeway, it's the grazing platform, it's the integration of the fields, it's the watering system, and they're all little small marginal steps to get the cow to come in on her own. And because if she doesn't come in on her own, you might as well still continue to make in a parlour. Would that be?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is encourage voluntary movement of the cow to come to the robot, to get milk, to move to a new paddock. And it's all about doing what's best practice for grazing anyway. You know, going in have the right pre-grazing covers, going in at the right time, getting good graze outs, you know, for the next round of grazing, etc. A lot of it's best practice as well, but I want to emphasise that we have a team of farm management support advisors for farmers who maybe are not confident in measuring grass, not confident in allocating grass, but they're there to support them through that transition phase, you know, to be able to develop that voluntary movement inside the cow. So again, we have a team in place to deal with these challenges that farmers might face with starting up with robotics.
Look, I want to say thanks a lot for having us, lads, and best luck with the next day.
I'm with Kieran from Tillage. So Kieran, tell me, what does this actually do?
So basically this is a form of effectively calming down a cow that a heifer comes into a parlour. She might be inclined to kick off the clusters, so I suppose traditionally there was always 3 ways for stopping a cow from kicking off the clusters. First and foremost, I suppose guys would come along and try to tie the leg back onto the parlour. The problem with that is, number 1, it's time consuming. Number 2, it's dangerous. So as you're putting in your hand, there's a risk you're going to get a kick there. There was a gentleman earlier that I saw, he still has a scar, 20 years on, clean the skin. So that's one way. The second way, they put on hip bars on, which kind of go in over the hip and go into the muscle in there at the hip bone. The problem with that is they're not always effective. They're only about effective 60% of the time. Okay. Sometimes you see people putting on one on the right, one on the left, and they'd still be dancing inside the parlour. Oftentimes then, because they're in at the side of the animal, you'll find them outside the fields, because people come along, they're down at the end of the stall, they pull the stall, they release them, and you find them out in the slats or out in the field. So I suppose the third option, and probably the most effective option that you'll often see vets using, or farmers if they have the second pair of hands, they'll come along, they'll climb up in the back of the parlour and they'll hold up the tail. Once the tail is held up like that, it kind of stimulates the nerve and it kind of helps calm down the cow, so they're not as agitated inside the unit. The problem with that being, I suppose, there's two reasons. So first and foremost, while you're up there, you're in danger of slipping off. Yeah. Or before you secure the tail, you could get a kick. So health and safety, it's a massive thing. That's why last year when we were here at the ploughing, we won an award for safety. The idea of this being the invention that Willie and I created, it's a fully stainless steel construction. It opens out like that. You lift it up. You pop it up onto the back of the cow. Okay. Simply pull this, and it locks it onto the hip bones there at either side. Once it's on there, it's secure and it's not coming off. You simply pop the tail onto it, you put your tool in here, and you lift it up. Once it lifts up, gravity, it falls into place and it's locked there. You can put pressure on it there and no one's at risk, no one's in danger. Once it's secured there, you can pop on your clusters. You can go about milking. If you have a rotary parlour, you simply lock that As soon as it comes back around, she's finished milking, you can release it. So all you do, same thing in reverse, you pop it in here, you pull the chain, it drops down, you insert your tool, and you remove it from the hips.
Fantastic. Amazing. Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Willie.
Cheers.
You're welcome back to the stage here at the Agriland Pavilion at the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska. Our live stream brought to you in association with UPMC this year. And I hope you've been enjoying our content, because now we're going to focus on, I suppose, farm safety, well-being and health as well. And I mean, farming is an incredibly physically demanding and a very dangerous occupation as well. And for the next while, we're going to focus on making our farms hopefully safer and better places to be as well. And joining us here on the stage is Pat Griffin. Pat is a Senior Inspector for Farm Safety with the Health and Safety Authority. Beside him is Tom McAvoy from Pieta House. Thanks for joining us, Tom. And David Rowsome. David, you've drawn the short straw on the on the stool, but you're fit and able for it. David is a physiotherapist with UPMC's Sports Medicine Clinic in TUS in Moylish in Limerick. You're all very welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Pat, I'm going to start with yourself, because as I mentioned, farming, definitely one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous occupation in this country. Unfortunately, 13 fatalities on Irish farms last year. It was the sector with the highest number of work-related fatalities. And unfortunately, on Agriland, we've brought some tragic stories this year again involving fatalities on Irish farms, whether that's involving livestock, machinery, falls from heights. It's an age-old question. How do we make our farms safer? And I mean, is it ever possible to completely eliminate farm deaths?
Well, first of all, thanks for covering the subject, because it is so important. And you're right. Sadly, it is the most dangerous occupation in this country. But things are improving. Last year, we had the lowest number of fatalities in the workplace ever recorded in Ireland. So generally, Ireland is improving in relation to workplace fatalities. So we had 27 deaths last year in all workplaces, but sadly 13 of those were in agriculture. And because agriculture makes up about 5 or 6% of the working population, you can see that agriculture is 7 times more dangerous than any other place you work. It is the most dangerous place to work in the country. But we've been working hard. I'd say over the last 20 years, we've had about 20 fatalities every year. So to drop it to 10 in 2021, and sadly 13 in 2022, that is a vast improvement. We want to drive it as low as we can. I think one of the reasons that we have been able to drive it lower is there's a better education now in ag colleges. There is an openness there from farmers to hear about farm safety. You know, farm safety is seen as a positive thing for farmers, and they are engaging, which is fantastic. You know, things like PTO shafts, while they're still very dangerous and they're still causing injuries, the numbers of fatalities from PTOs have really dropped. And that's because we've done a huge amount of work at the Ploughing Championships, at the Tullamore Show, at different events, focusing on that particular issue because it was killing people. This year at the Ploughing Championships, we're focusing on tractor safety and quad safety, because sadly, vehicles are involved with the vast majority of farm fatalities. And it's about someone operating the tractor just not seeing who's around the
That
ears.
blind spot is a
those
big
blind
issue.
spots. And we're demonstrating blind spots over their stand.
Yeah.
And we're also demonstrating the use of quad bikes. And out of the 191 fatalities, 100 of them in the last year, 10 years, are vehicle movements in the yard. So we have to start focusing on that.
And often, unfortunately, Pat, very young people and the elderly as well, and they seem to be the fatalities.
It's predominantly children and the older person that can't move out of the way in time.
Yeah.
So I think we focus on the vehicles in farmyards, whatever type of vehicle it is, whether it's a tractor, teleporter, a quad, or a large machine, and get it into the farmer's head that once they're in a quad, once they're in a tractor or a big machine, there's blind spots that just won't see people. So the only way to keep people really safe is when these machines are operating in the yard, you just don't have people there.
Yes.
And if someone wants to come into the yard, they have to stop at a certain point, make make visible contact with the operator, they stop the machine and to turn off the machine before they start to talk. If we do that, I think we can drop the fatalities even further than we have. And my target is 0, and we want to get there. And children and older people predominantly getting killed on farms, we need to stop it.
Yeah, and look, behind every fatality, you know, there's a devastated family, and there's no words. I mean, every family, unfortunately, you know, who experiences this horror, it's something that never leaves your house.
Shocking.
No, it doesn't.
I worked with Embrace Farm for about eight years, and I've dealt with farm families that have been devastated. It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
They never recover. They might learn to live with it, but they never recover. We've dealt with people that have had a fatality 30, 40 years ago, and they're still destroyed.
And it can be still as raw.
So we need to stop it.
And look, Pat, just on the HSA's work, I just want to mention as well, and it's something we covered last year here on Agriland, because it was, I suppose, we'd a year out at that stage, but coming down the track very quickly now is the new requirements around the use of quads and ATVs. What do farmers need to know, and what's the date that they need to take action by?
Yeah, like I'll explain why we've done this. Out of the 100 fatalities with vehicles, 10 of those fatalities are from quad bikes. And when you consider the low number of quad bikes in farming, like there's over 300,000 tractors out there. There's about 20,000 quads. So if you have 10 fatalities from quads, it's the most dangerous machine on the farm. So we brought in regulations. They're quite simple. The farmer now has to have training to operate his quad bike and has to wear a helmet. And that requirement of a training and wearing a helmet is across all sectors. Anywhere a quad bike is used, and you see quad bikes used out in the public road for controlling traffic flow. You see quad bikes used in forestry. We see the inland fisheries using it, DSB use them, other utilities. Anyone operating a quad bike, it's the same law. Training and wearing a helmet. And hopefully that will stop life-changing injuries and fatalities.
Okay, well, look, David, I'm going to bring you in here because, as I said, you're a chartered physiotherapist working with UPMC in the sports medicine clinic down in TUS in Limerick. And I suppose you're here at the Ploughing Championships. UPMC have a stand, and farmers can go in and talk about aches and pains. And I've no doubt that you've been kept busy because there's a lot of pulling and dragging and hauling and tearing on farms. So I'm sure that you've been kept busy now at the ploughing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know we really enjoy coming in and listening to people's stories. I suppose, as you said, we're UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Centre, are trying to build a big presence here in Ireland, so they offer quite a lot of services across the country. So we've a number of hospitals around. We've the UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic they've recently acquired up in Dublin, down in Knotheven in Kilkenny, Whitfield in Waterford, and in Kildare. And then I suppose myself, I'm a physiotherapist in the sports medicine clinic down in Limerick, and we have a number of sports medicine clinics around the country as well. So I suppose we see quite a few patients. We see people from every walk of life. So we've definitely encountered a few people from the farming population as well, because as you said, it's a very tough, very intense job, and we all know those intense calving or lambing seasons. That I suppose you're struggling with sleep, struggling with stress, quite a high workload, and it just doesn't, I suppose, help. It doesn't help pain at all, if you know what I mean. So, so we see everyone, and we're just trying to, I suppose, build our presence here in the farming community and just make people aware of just the services we offer across the country. So,
and I understand for maybe something like physiotherapy, it's something that you can refer yourself into and approach UPMC directly on something like that if you have a niggle. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a self-referral service in all our clinics and a GP referral service as well. So so we're really trying to get our brand out there just to make people aware, and it's quick access. So we have quite a few services then we offer in our clinics, like osteoarthritis classes for people with long-standing hip or knee arthritis, and then we've exercise classes for long-term disease, So it's brilliant. We've seen quite great results from the classes so far as well.
Yeah.
So
and I'd say, David, a lot of it as well is preventative as well. You know, we want to try and prevent the injuries happening and try and offset disease, you know, occurring if we can at all, you know, and keep ourselves as healthy as possible. So any tips and advice for us all?
I actually had this conversation recently with a sheep farmer from down in Waterford. But I suppose one thing I always try to say to people is, you know, we all understand that these lambing seasons, these calving seasons, they're going to be stressful no matter what. So I suppose one thing I'd always try push with farmers would be to get fit for spring, you know, so that those downtime periods that you're really looking after yourself, you're getting anything that's maybe lingering, maybe getting some professional advice on it, getting it looked at, and working on certain things, be it your range of motion, your shoulder, your strength in your knees and your hips. But really taking those downtime periods to, you know, get your body as prepared as possible. I use the analogy of you didn't quite like this, but the GA pre-season. So not everyone's favourite time of the year, but it's but there's definitely, I think there's a lot we can take from that. You know, we can look at just, let's say, the farming or the lambing season, the calving season as a big body of work, and you're just preparing your body for that. So all these little things I find quite helpful. So it's been
and I know you have quite an involvement with sports teams, so the pre-GA season reference is something you're well used to that as well, David. And look, I suppose the classes as well, as you said, there's something as well that, you know, it kind of breaks down the barrier. We were speaking with Clodagh from UPMC as well. You know, often it can be very intimidating for somebody. You know, they're putting off maybe dealing with whatever is bothering them because, you know, I don't really want to go to a physio or to a doctor or a consultant. So, you know, breaking down those barriers, being at something like the National Ploughing Championships, it brings you out of the clinical setting and amongst the people.
Absolutely, it makes us more personable, more approachable, just I suppose all we want to do is help people. So that's I suppose what we're trying to push.
And do you think the class settings help that as well? Break down, you know, people who are dealing with maybe similar issues, and they can speak 100%. To their peers about that then?
100%, yeah. There's a massive social aspect to it, and just seeing, like, you know, that there is people that are going through something maybe similar to you. So I think that's been a massive plus in the classes as well. Yeah.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to bring you in here as well because, look, the area of well-being is something that is incredibly important as well. And Pieta House, you're at the coalface, I suppose, when people feel that they really need help, you know, that they feel that maybe life has gotten a little bit too tough and that they might need a bit of support. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that Pieta House do? You're also here on site, I should say, for the National Ploughing Championships.
Thanks, Aisling, for having us here today, and hello to everybody at Agriland. Yes, we were kindly invited to join the IFA stand today and be part of an initiative, a collaborative initiative, to bring awareness of our work to people coming through the stand. And absolutely, nobody can be removed from stress. And I was interested to hear David advising how to perhaps work with your physical health, and that matches up with your emotional health and your mental health, obviously. So we're really trying in PA to create an awareness around suicide prevention in our work. And I suppose, there's a common theme that, people who die by suicide, perhaps, they might not have been able to be helped. So fortunately in our work, we have seen hundreds or thousands and thousands of people come through our doors who have been helped in a physical way to have a presence with a therapist and receive completely free therapy from us. And they've gone on to continue to live very well lives as a result of that help. And that, I suppose, what we're trying to do here is, talk to people and not make it ordinary that you can share a load or share a burden with somebody who you might not know, but it helps to be aware that the stigma around talking about your mental health has reduced over the years, we're glad to say, and that continues to help people reaching out and looking for that support. Like what
Because
we
farming
do,
can be quite isolated at times, you
Yes.
know, and I think, you know, joining up with the likes of the IFA is a way to reach that audience.
We've heard lots of stories coming through, thankfully, people sharing with us of living in isolation, first of all, and also working in isolation. You know, maybe not speaking to somebody from one end of the day to the other.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a time when the postman used to come along, or the post lady used to come along, and they'd share a story with them. The same with sharing a story with somebody on the other end of the bar stool or the bar.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that doesn't happen because of circumstances. And
I remember
you know,
speaking to a farmer some time back, and he said that he loved to see the postman coming, and he loved junk mail, because we were discussing about junk mail at the time and doing away with junk mail for the environment. And he said, I love junk mail because it means that the postman calls,
I know.
and I have somebody to talk to. And it was just that
and really
interaction.
what works, whatever works for you,
Yeah.
to create, you know, a connection. And maybe somebody is shy and they don't want to reach out. So we often say it's incumbent upon us as a community to reach out to people, to, you know, maybe see people who do live in isolation and are a little bit shy, or create that ambience that they're okay or they don't need that support. And, you know, it's incumbent upon us as a society really to be there for our you know, those people who might find it hard to reach out. And, you know, our free phone helpline is really an important connection for all communities, no matter who they are. We are dealing with people from the age of 8 to people in their 80s. This year alone, our therapies being delivered to under 18s, 38% of our client base is under 18 at the moment, which is a huge increase on previous years on a certain cohort. And we're seeing a lot of older people also coming to us, which is fantastic. Like when people hear of statistics, they say, geez, like that's a lot or whatever. But we're looking at it in the other way, in that perhaps, you know, there's a greater awareness and there's an easier access to help.
Yeah.
Definitely in the community, people don't realise the volume of help that's out there.
Yeah.
It's only when maybe a tragedy hits their door or in their community, they then realise, oh, like there's lots of help out there, but we didn't realise it, or you know that. But we can continue to promote, but it's up to people to also reach out and ask for
and
help,
take that step,
and not to be stigmatised about that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it definitely has got better over the years. And you know, we're doing a lot more talking, which I think is helping. Suicide has come down over the last number of years as well, which is really helpful to know, because there's a lot of organisations doing great work, and it's good to see that is impacting.
Okay, and Pat, I know the HSA also has done work in this area, you know, and looking at the whole area of farmer well-being as well.
Yeah, we in our Farm Safety Action Plan, which is spread over 4 or 5 years, and what we need to do for farmers' safety and health, we actually have a health committee. It's called the Health and Vulnerable Persons Working Group, actually. And over the last couple of years, we've actually produced a booklet on farmers' health and well-being, and we've tried to cover all the aspects of health, from, you know, stress and pressures to physical safety, their diet, cardiovascular health.
And where can farmers get that?
We've actually posted it to every single farmhouse.
Fantastic.
In January. So every farmhouse has got that booklet, and we've more down at our stand.
Okay.
So we are focusing on health and the holistic approach about health.
Yes.
And just to mention to you, Tom, we also produced a video on suicidality, and it was a farmer, a gentleman called George Graham, a lovely, lovely man, who has spoken openly about his suicidal thoughts and how he reached out.
Yes.
And he got help, and it really pulled him back, and he's a survivor.
Okay.
And he does great work. He set up an organisation called Head to Toe.
Yeah.
And he talks to his farmers all over the country.
And Pat, can people see that on your social channels?
Yeah. That video is on the HSA
Excellent.
website. Yeah.
And David, I might just bring you in here. I know obviously you're a physiotherapist, but somebody's mindset when they're coming to maybe an injury or surgery or post-surgery or anything like that, it's all holistic. It's all part of the approach as well, and it's something I'm sure you're very conscious of in UPMC as well.
100%. Yeah, no, the patient's always at the centre of everything. So, yeah, like it's a massive decision. Like, you know, a person, let's say, going down the surgical route, it's a massive decision in someone's life. You know, it's going to affect quite a few things. It's going to affect how much you can do on the farm. It's going to affect how much you can do at home. You know, so it's a massive decision. So I suppose, just personally, like working in clinic, I always try to work with the patient. Our job as a physio is to optimise someone's function and try and help them, I suppose, function as best they can without impacting their quality of life too much. You know.
And stopping working, because I think that's always a fear as well. Yeah, I know you're big fans of movement instead, and I probably should ask you as well, David, some tips for us all to get our cars out of the car park safely and ergonomically, because I think we might need it today.
Spread the load, plenty of numbers.
We might all have. Well, we'd have to mind the back. Yeah, pushing the car into the car park this morning and out this evening, but it's all part of it. And there's a great atmosphere today, and it's drying up as well. David, obviously, farmers can pop into the UPMC stand. They can obviously look up the website as well if they want to see your suite of services. And Tom, I suppose from P8's point of view, do you want to give the free phone number if somebody wants to reach out?
Thanks for that. People can contact us any time of the night or day, 24/7, 365 days of the year on 1800 247 247. It's a free phone helpline. There is a therapist on the other end of that phone who will be able to help you and perhaps be a solution-focused conversation rather than just a listening service. So there is particular method in the way we approach that. We also offer great help on our pieta.ie website. We have lots of insights and lots of information there, and we'd encourage people to, connect with us whenever they wish to even find out more information about the service, not necessarily for them, but perhaps for a loved one.
Yeah, and look, I suppose finally, Pat, as well, the HSA website, always a wealth of information, maybe doing a risk assessment on your farm, as you were pointing to earlier, or looking up the video of George, and there's a wealth of information always on the HSA website.
If anyone has time to visit our HSA stand here, please do, and our HSA website has huge amounts of information and a web and an index of all the videos that we've done. There's loads and loads of information there.
Fantastic. Well, David Rowsome, a physiotherapist with UPMC, who are sponsoring our live stream here at the Ploughing. We're very grateful to them. Tom McAvoy from Pieta House doing great work as well. And of course, Pat Griffin from the Health and Safety Authority. Thank you all so much for joining us. A really important discussion, I think, and hopefully our viewers got a lot out of that, and everybody here in the pavilion at the National Ploughing Championships. And we're going back out onto site now to see what else is going on in Ratheniska today.
We're here with Parag Hennessy, Chief Executive of ag tech company Terra Nutritech. You've launched an exciting new initiative here today. Tell us all about it.
So we've launched a fueling performance initiative today with Eurogene, LIC, Pitfield and AI Northern Ireland. So the fueling performance initiative is coming together of us, a nutrition company, as well as Pitfield, which is a nutrition company, with some of the leading genetics companies in the country. So really what we're trying to do is ensure that when cows have the right genetics, we can fuel their performance with proper nutrition to ensure we're going to get the most out of the cow. It's a huge bearing to play on sustainability, for example. I mean, the longer cows stay in the herd, the more fertile they are, the more we're getting out of them, the more sustainable farms are going to be. And we need to, as an industry, we need to keep looking at all of these parts and see what we can bring together to ensure farming is going to be as sustainable as possible, because farming is under attack at the moment.
And it's very important because we had a lot of debate about the size of the herd in Ireland, what it delivers. So why is this important as part of that?
I suppose it's important, it's not about growing the herd, it's about ensuring that the herd any farm has is as efficient as possible. And that includes fertility, calving, health outcomes, production, of course, is huge. The more you can get out of any one cow, the more efficient that cow is, the lower the carbon footprint of each litre of milk. So it's really important that farms are as efficient as possible. And by coming together with Eurogene, LIC, Pitfield and AI Services Northern Ireland, we feel that we're going to increase that productivity on farm.
And that's a key issue for farmers now, because we know that input costs have been very high, so farmers are really looking at the bottom line a lot.
Yes, and it's really important then to make sure that every single euro that they spend, they're getting the most out of it, and they're maximising what's happening with their animals on farm. So it's really, really important, and farmers will always be under pressure. Farmers have good years, and more than likely the following year, following 2 years will be on the lower side. So farming always needs to make sure that they're as efficient as possible, and driving that efficiency is making sure the animals are productive as possible.
And it's very important within our whole climate challenge in Ireland, isn't it?
That's the big train that's coming through the tunnel at us all over the next 5 years. The targets that have to be achieved, they're written into law in the next 6-7 years are enormous tasks for farmers to try and deal with. Farmers can't work harder; they're going to have to work smarter. Technology, the likes of ourselves, Terra Nutritech, is what will allow them to do that. There's only so many hours in the day, and working harder isn't going to reduce your footprint. It's using new methods, new technologies that will allow that CO2 emissions to drop per litre of milk, and that's really what farmers now need to be looking at, is how can we do it. Now, it's not just up to farmers, it's up to the entire industry, from suppliers like ourselves to processors. We all have to come together and start working together on this. It's not a fight just for farmers, it's a fight for the entire industry.
And tell us a little bit more about Terra Nutritech, because you're obviously a very exciting company.
Yeah, well, I like to think so. We're going now about 10 years. So we launched through demand. We have a sister business, Terra Services, that installs water systems on farms. From that, we had a lot of farmers asking us, "You're in the water game, guys. Have you got a more accurate way to put supplements into the water?" So we launched with some older technology. We searched the world, couldn't find the exact right technology. Launched with that about 10 years ago, very quickly caught on. We kept doubling the size of the business each year. And then about 5 years ago, we brought the business to another level. We hired in a technology team, and we developed technology from the ground up to ensure that it is exactly what's needed on farm. We also built a manufacturing facility for all of the minerals, so now we can actually custom make minerals for farms. We can go in and get that fine margin and really make sure that those cows are getting what they need. It's been a really exciting year for us. Obviously, with the likes of this Fueling Performance Initiative with LIC, Eurogene and AI Services NI. We've also signed contracts in France this year and in Germany, so we're actually expanding our services into Europe. So it's a very exciting time for us as a business at the moment.
And what's the next stage of that journey?
With the technology we've developed, we're leading. We're world leaders in that technology, so we're looking farther afield. Even over the last couple of days here, we've a stand in the innovation arena. We've had companies come to us from China, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil. So there's huge other opportunities for us now. All of those markets would not be markets we're going to jump into straight away, but there certainly is opportunities worldwide for us as a business.
And Ireland's a good test market.
It's brilliant. It's a fantastic market. If you can make it, if you can improve your technology in Ireland and make it work in Ireland, you can make it work anywhere. We're a very low-cost production system here. Farmers don't like to spend money. They like to keep it in their pocket. If you can prove to farmers in Ireland why it's wise to use your system, you can prove that anywhere else in the world. So it's a fantastic country to grow a business. We're a family business as well. We've actually built our facilities on the old family farm, and it's an amazing industry to be in in a family enterprise. So I absolutely love working in the Irish sector.
Corey Henderson, Chief Executive, Terra Nutritech. Thanks for joining us.
Very welcome.
welcome back to the Agriland Pavilion here at the Agriland stand 305. And we are just coming to the end of our live stream here in association with UPMC. And I'm joined on the panel today now for our final one by Sandra Hayes from Teagasc, Anya O'Connell from, well, IFA and Women in Dairy, and Paula Fitzsimons from Acorns. Ladies, thank you very much for joining me on the panel today. I suppose, first of all, Sandra, you're the programme manager with Teagasc and the coordinator of the Future Farm programme based in the Kilkenny-Waterford region. So what is the most impactful part of your role as programme manager with Teagasc on that particular programme?
I suppose it's the one-to-one that I have with the 10 farmers. They get a visit from me practically every month. So you're literally with the farmer. You've great one-to-one relationship both with the farmer, his partner, wife, spouse, and a lot with the people working on the farm and the family, the whole family. Like they know you by name and they know when you're going to call. And you know, once I land on the farm, the first thing you do is you put on your boots and you go and walk the farm. You do a grass walk. You're back in then having a cup of tea and discussing things and doing things on the computer. So you become part of the family, I suppose, for the period of the programme. Like, these farmers are in the programme since 2019. They first went into the Teagasc Tirlan, Glanbia as it was at the time.
Yeah.
And then in 2 years later they changed and they all moved into Signpost. So they're going to be in the programme for a total of 7 years. So it changed. I moved over in December 21. Richard O'Brien was my predecessor. So you're kind of an advisor that's nearly part of the furniture and part of the farm, because you're there on a one-to-one basis. So it's a lot of information they get, and for me, I get great buy-in from the farmers, because every time I go to the farm from one visit to the next, you might have discussed something. Will you reseed that field? And 4 weeks later, when you arrive back, the job is done.
Yeah.
So there's great reward in the job that you do, and the uptake of the technology and the new methods and the new science that's coming out. To be fair, they're very good farmers and they're great adopters, and they take it on and they try it, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, and they'll give it a go. And the good thing then about my job is that I get to relay that back to the larger farming public. The clover worked here or it didn't work there, and the reasons why, because the farmers give you that one-to-one information.
And just actually to recap to our viewers as to the Future Farm programme, I suppose the ultimate aim of it, Sandra.
Well, the aim is for those farmers to lower their carbon footprint from what it was. So there's specific targets built in from Teagasc and Tirlan into the programme. And I know what the targets are, the farmers do as well, and we work on a one-to-one basis to see in practical day-to-day running of the farm, how can those targets be met? And where we come across the problems, and to relay them to the bigger farmer public, because I think they get the perception of a monitor farmer, they do everything perfect and they don't do anything wrong. They're the same as any other farmer. They're just opening themselves up, because they're in the public persona quite a bit. But they do things the same as every other farmer, but they're just willing to, I suppose, to adapt earlier and make changes earlier and try and be on that journey, because for them, it's for their farmer businesses going forward. They see it as a good thing for them.
Absolutely. Paula, thank you for joining us. You really are a great advocate for the Acorns programme. So the Acorns programme is for early stage female entrepreneurs living in rural Ireland. It's over a 6-month period. You work with a lot of women in rural areas. And I suppose from your point of view, Paula, what are the biggest challenges facing women in rural areas in getting into business, thinking about starting business, thinking about expanding business? What are the challenges?
Okay, there's many challenges about starting a business in the first place, no matter where you're situated. You're trying to get customers, you're trying to get your finance, you're trying to bring your idea into fruition. And if you're in a rural area, it's more difficult. Broadband isn't uniformly available. Mm-hmm. Your customers, your suppliers tend to be more at a distance. The entrepreneur herself is often more isolated, so there's less networks for her. And other services like childcare may not be as available. So the idea behind Acorns, which comes from the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, was that they wanted to stimulate entrepreneurship within rural areas, and particularly focusing on women, because less women were starting businesses So that's where Acorns comes in. And one of the things it does is it tries to break that cycle of isolation by forming a strong network, or tribe if you like, of like-minded people and bringing them together with a goal and milestone of starting and beginning to grow that business. So while there's challenges, this provides the opportunity to galvanise their interest and motivation.
Anya O'Connell, you're a dairy farmer, and you know you've a great idea of the sector through your work of IFA and so on. As a female dairy farmer, you know, are you coming across many other female dairy farmers in your day-to-day life and in your IFA work?
I think it's improving. We are, in my role in IFA, we have 2 female members on our committee, so we always welcome that. We're trying to get more female members involved. We're always encouraging it. So it's small but growing, and we have got a stronger voice coming from the female farming community, which is good. In my role with Dairy Women Ireland, it is all about establishing that education and support network for dairy women, so that they recognise themselves the important roles they play in dairy farming, because as women we typically undervalue ourselves and undersell ourselves. So to remind women how important a role they play, be it in the house or actually on the farm, it doesn't matter. They're playing a valuable role to the whole farm family situation. And then also encouraging them to, you know, assert themselves, get empowered, learn, get confident, to go to the, you know, the male discussion groups, get involved with the dairy co-op boards, get involved in areas where they would have probably lacked confidence before because they were such a male-dominated space. But from my time in the dairy sector, at this stage, I'm more comfortable talking to a room full of men than a room full of women. Yeah. I find a room full of women very intimidating at this stage.
Yeah.
So it's all, I would say it's a very welcoming space for any woman in the industry. They just need to back themselves. And that's what Dairy Women Ireland is all about. Empower yourself and you can do anything.
Sandra, the 10 families that you work with, as you said, you work with families, you don't work with 10 farmers.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I work with 10
it's
families.
the families, it's the spouses, it's the kids that all get involved as well.
Yeah. Well, like, it's the best way to work because you're sitting at a kitchen table and we've made the cup of tea together and we sit down and we're making farm decisions. So those decisions can have an impact on the whole family. So they all need to be on board on, you know, what direction that the farm is taking. So in a lot of cases, they'd have a farm business plan done up and we'd involve the family. Like, what are your goals? Like, we might have a financial plan, but also where does the farm want to be with the family in the next 5 years? So you can't have a plan with just the farmer on its own. You have to have everybody else involved.
Of course, yeah.
You know?
And actually, just mentioning there, you know, how Anya was saying, within the agricultural sector that people, and particularly women, should have that confidence to maybe go for more roles and things like that. And, you know, more and more we're chatting to people, representatives of Teagasc, for example, that are women.
Yeah.
You know, how is Teagasc getting on in terms of providing those career growth opportunities to women, and even in other agribusiness that you work with, are you seeing more women?
Well, definitely. Like, as I was explaining there before we came on stage, that like when I started off in ag and finished in '97, it was a male-dominated. But through the eyes that I have, I didn't see any difference because we all got treated the same, and we all met one another at interviews. So there was no kind of issue there. On farm or within Teagasc, I suppose there's definitely more female advisors, and I suppose there's change, as Anya mentioned, slowly taking place. Like we've got 2 female regional managers in Teagasc. I suppose I've moved into a role that would have been previously a male role. So yes, changes are happening a bit slowly, but they are changing. But the thing I see on Teagasc on the ground, a lot of regional units have started up the women discussion groups.
Yes.
So myself and John Maguire in the Waterford-Kilkenny region, we actually facilitate one of those. It started last October, and we've got a great response. And it's a bit like what Anya's saying is, you know, giving them the support and the help. Like as I said, and I've always says this, like I've had male groups before, and I've always encouraged spouses to come along, and they have, and their children as well, particularly during the school holidays, because you never know what effect that can have, and you'll see it in a few years' time. Somebody will come back to you and say, "Oh, I used to go with Daddy to the discussion group meetings." So that's help and encouragement, and we're seeing that with the women's groups. I suppose some of them have got bad press, kind of saying, "Oh, why is there women only?" Well, I said, "Why is there men only?"
Yeah.
But the women have said to us that they find it a very comfortable environment to learn and to ask the questions. If they get that confidence, I see no issue why they wouldn't join their own local discussion group in a couple of years' time when they've built up that knowledge base and, I suppose, the strength and the courage to go and join their local mixed group, as it might be then. I suppose I'm in a women's only discussion group myself called Demeter, and we meet 4 times a year. And before I would have just kind of, I don't know, what's the need for a women's discussion group? But I suppose the atmosphere and the environment when I'm there with the other women and the sharing that goes on is absolutely tremendous. And I would encourage any women to get in touch with any organisation they can to empower themselves and give themselves that knowledge, because what we're finding, myself and John in the local one, they ask more intelligent questions than sometimes the men discussion groups. So if anyone's out there and wants to join, get on to their local regional manager or someone in their office and ask, is there a group in their area, and get involved. You never know. I know the Kilkenny Waterford one is going very well, and they're all very delighted to be in it.
Great stuff. Paula, can I go back to you? What Anya and Sandra have echoed there, I suppose, is, like more women feeling supported by other women. And sometimes confidence is a big part of it. I think, I don't know, but personally speaking, I always feel like I nearly come from the back foot in terms of confidence, and a bit of imposter syndrome that goes on. With the way things have gone with agriculture at the moment, it is looking like a lot of farm enterprises have to diversify. So a lot of the time, and we're hearing more and more stories of where the women in the household, if they're not on farm and the man is doing more of the farming and she might be doing the farm family, she's coming up with a diversification project, a small business, be it horticulture, be it making jam or something like that, or small businesses. Are you seeing more of that coming through Acorns?
Certainly we would see. I mean, one that comes to mind immediately who did exactly that was Norma Deneen from Borua Farm, who everybody knows very well. They have a dairy farm there. Norma was working off the farm as an engineer, and to fit in around the family, she found it better if she would work on the farm, and she retrained as an artisan cheese producer. And now they've the award-winning cheese, so she's adding value to the family farm. Others in the Burren, for example, are doing agri-tourism. We have others doing horticulture. So absolutely, you see that diversification. But also, I see others coming forward who've nothing to do with the farm, who live in rural areas, who are starting businesses, be it coffee shops, be it coding for kids, be it Joe Brown, Beauty in Carlow. They're in rural areas, they're adding value in their locality, they're creating jobs, and they're offering more services to those who live there. So all in all, it gives everyone a better reason to be in their locality, and it gives these women a very fulfilling job for themselves.
Absolutely. Anya, can I go back to you again in terms of the IFA? Do you think there is that block, I suppose, in terms of confidence? Like I note, for example, just within taking the IFA as an example, from Director General, President, Deputy President, and I'm almost sure down to regional level, I don't think there's female in those positions at the moment. And we had Alice Doyle on here earlier, for example, who's going for the Deputy President role in the IFA, and she said she would like to see more people like her, and she feels that women would like to see more people like yourselves in those positions. Do you think there is more of a move towards that in general in farming?
There is, but the first and foremost important thing is for the woman herself to back herself. IFA is a democracy, so you only can vote on the candidates that are nominated. So in order for people to be able to vote for a woman, a woman has to be nominated, and that woman has to have the confidence to back herself to put herself up for that. And that level of exposure and scrutiny, sometimes women shy away from, you know. So it is something we'd love to see more women obviously running in the association. We want diversity. We want people from all ages, all backgrounds. It makes our council more comprehensive, and we will develop better policy as a result of it. So we want all that diversity, not just gender, but age and different sectors, different backgrounds. But particularly for the woman, they have to put themselves in that position. So it goes right back to the fact that you have to empower the women. You have to nurture these roles when they come into branch level, that they feel valued, not worshipped, but valued. Maybe worshipped.
Well, we'll take a bit of worship as well. I'll never say no.
But they do need to be recognised and allowed to grow in the association. But I think there's plenty of space for women to grow in IFA. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm a staff member. I'm not voluntary, so it's a bit different. But yeah. I don't see any reason why my gender should get in the way of what the job is. It doesn't bother me. And I think every woman coming into the sector shouldn't let their gender be an issue.
Yeah. Sandra, we're walking around the ploughing here for the last 2 days, and we'll do so again tomorrow. And, you know, I don't see it as being 90-80% males here and male farmers. I see pretty even division here, and there's women going around there with wellies on, and I'd say they tell me how to run a farm faster than anyone else. So when you're out and about now, and as you said, I think 97 you said you qualified.
Graduate, yeah.
So in the difference between 97 and 2023, have you in your work seen a sea change of maybe where women weren't taken as seriously, or you know, even to give advice, because there could have been younger women working with Teagasc going into older generation farms trying to give advice? Have you seen a sea change, or is it still slowly moving?
No, I definitely have seen a change, and I'd say, I suppose I'm part of the instigation of that change, because if I went out and I was asked out on, let's say we're drawing up, we want to go into a partnership, you know, father and son, or, you know, daughter and father, right? I would kind of say, well, who's going to be there when you go out on farm? And they say, well, just the two of us. And I said, no, we're going to need everybody here, because this is a very big step, a big change in how the farm is going to be run. It's going to involve everybody. And they say, no, well, such and such is working up in Dublin, they won't be done. And I said, well, if you don't have the roundtable talks with me, you need to have it before I arrive. So I suppose Teagasc would be very pro in that, whether you're a male or a female advisor, when you go out on farm, for certain decisions that you're going to need everybody on board, like transferring the family farm. We have a lot of seminars now coming up in October.
That's right.
And we would definitely encourage, you know, the family to go, you know, and to get that information, because if one person goes, the information coming back can be skewed. So you're better off having everybody. So I always find it when I go out to, you know, to discuss things like that, major changes in the farm, you know, transferring from son to daughter or partnership, ships, or changing to a company or something like that, to get everybody around the table, because you'd be surprised what comes out. Yeah. And then they can have the private time and have the discussions, but they have the information in front of them from me, and they know that everybody knows at the same time, and it's not a second message. So yeah, we would encourage that. We would find better decisions are made when the family are together.
Paula, finally, I'm just running out of time here, but just before you go, can you give some advice to our viewers who are watching? You know, maybe the husband is here today, but the kids are in school, so the farming wife is at home, she's to collect them from school, but they have an idea. They may not have the confidence and don't know where to go if they want to start a rural business. What should they do?
They should, in the first instance, if they're not here and they can't come and talk to me, if they want to talk to me, I'm in the innovation arena, and they can come. I'm happy to answer questions, be it to a man or a woman. I'm happy to have the discussion. Otherwise, go on the internet, look up acorns.ie, and they'll find that we have a call open for applicants at the moment. So I would say move on it immediately, and the closing date for that is Friday at midnight.
Friday. Paula, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry that's all we have time for today. We've come to the end of our live stream coverage from the Ploughing Championships in association with UPMC. But do stay tuned to Agriland. Just because the live stream has stopped doesn't mean we won't be covering all of the action right up until this evening, until the last van, car, tractor, gator has gone out the gate. And we're back again tomorrow with our live stream. We'll be here on site first thing in the morning, and our live stream from 12 to 4. So stay tuned on the Agriland app, on YouTube and on Facebook. Thank you to my wonderful panel, the last panel of the day today: Sandra Hayes from Teagasc, Anya Collin from IFA, and Paula Fitzsimons from Fitzsimons Consulting and the Acorns programme. Stay tuned, and we'll be back again tomorrow.